I met Kendra Montgomery Block, who until recently was with the Sierra Health Foundation. She's now with the Sacramento Kings. And talked to her and Belle Reyes and Britt Irby, three young ladies who knew me and knew what I was trying to do. And we began working together around summer programs for Sac City School District. And they said, Mr. Roberts, we found out about Freedom School. So I went to Tennessee to see what Freedom School was all about. And literally within 1 hour of being in Tennessee on that cold January morning, I realized what they saw in Freedom School that we could capture as part of Roberts Family Development Center. It was the spiritual, personal connection of Freedom School. It was the fellowship that existed among those who did this work when we were in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee to be exact, on the Ella Baker, Alex Haley farm.
COVID-19 and Freedom Schools has for sure been a journey. It has caused us from an administrative standpoint to really think about youth safety, child and family health care needs. So we have been part of the ground floor grassroots movements in making sure that our communities have access to vaccinations, to testing clinics, to proper health care.
It's been close to 15 months where we've had a full campus of students and hearing their sounds and their laughter and their energy. So just getting kids back on campus, back acclimated to being at school was definitely a benefit from Freedom Schools.
First experience with Freedom Schools and COVID was last year actually. It was kind of hard because I like being in person with the scholars and being physical, you know how we do Harambe, we jumping around, shaking each other, oh no, and stuff like that. It's hard. It was harder. It was way different. I didn't like the feeling of that.
Training SLIs, at the end of coming out of COVID, has been really interesting. We weren't able to travel to Tennessee with the travel restrictions still. So we did all of our training locally. We added a little more training time and just loved on and poured into our SLIs, or servant leader interns, to make sure that they were equipped with as many tools as they could possibly have to really support the children and families reacclimating themselves to socializing. One of the things that we really focused on was giving them mental health training.
We have smaller class sizes for after-school programs than most, so we have to spend more money on staff than most. You're right, but we think our results speak for itself. I think that investment in those young people, for the most part, says that we are not only investing in those kids that they serve, we're also investing in them. We train them, they get more hours, almost 60 hours of training before they even start working with the kids, and then some continual training throughout the summer. We're serious about this, and our commitment to Freedom School and the Children's Defense Fund, school district that we serve, the kids that we serve, and the families that we serve is serious.
Learned two things. One, that teachers and students are incredibly resilient and adaptable, and they have overcome so much. But it was a pivot. It was a huge pivot for educators, a huge pivot for our students, from being on a school campus in front of a teacher for 6 hours to being now on Zoom all day.
Having been at home, children basically just forgetting about raising your hand and walking in the hallway. Freedom Schools has not only helped us get our kids back on track with their reading and writing, it's also helped us get them back into a routine, the routine of going to school.
The way Freedom Schools is structured in our IRC component, we have one staff member, one teacher to 10 kids, versus in a traditional setting, you have one teacher to 20, maybe 30 kids. And with that being, it's going to be hard for that teacher to connect with each and every last one of those kids, versus if you're in the IRC classroom, it's 1 to 10, giving you a lot more time to be more impactful, get to understand what's going on in the home, get to know the kids a lot better. You just spend more quality time and get that one-on-one component.
When I was in out-of-school programs, summer programs or whatever, it was always like 20 to 30 kids for one teacher. So that influence isn't as big because it's so much of a bigger spectrum of students. When it's 1 to 10, it's really more personal.
I felt like my teacher didn't care about me. Like, they would just give us homework and be like, here you go. And then they would grade it and that's it. But they didn't know about my life. They didn't know my mom. They didn't know my dad. They didn't know my sister. They didn't know nothing.
One scholar struggles with writing. Okay, let me circle around her a little bit more and give her that one-on-one because I know she struggles a little bit. I have another person struggling with reading. Okay, you sit next to me, let's read together. I'll help you out. That one-on-one is what instills confidence in scholars to do this year-round, right? So the skills that they're developing with us, one-on-one, I hope transcend into the academic school year. Because the reality is, and this isn't necessarily the teacher's fault, but 1-on-30, you can't build those relationships the same way, right?
And the fact that we have stuff like reading circles, you know what I'm saying? It's a circle rather than I'm just up at the board and I'm teaching, boom, 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 you know what I'm saying? I'm sitting at my desk while we're reading. No, we're all in a circle together, so it's already more personal. So I think having the fact that it's only 1 to 10 or 1 to 11, 12, 13, even that number is still small enough to where I can impact more children in this setting compared to having a whole classroom of kids, you know what I'm saying?
I think it's so critical that Freedom School utilizes the 10-to-1 ratio or even less. These young people need that critical attention, right? They need that love poured into them. They need that positive affirmation each and every single day that a traditional model of school may not have the opportunity to afford them that.
Small class sizes to the Freedom School model, it's really allowed those leaders to create a sense of community in those rooms. The rooms are decorated to meet different themes. I've seen circus classrooms, I've seen travel classrooms, Marvel classrooms. My favorite component is how the leaders always connect the students' names into the theme. So the students walk in, they immediately know this is going to be our space. And then when you have that opportunity of having just 10 students, any activity or lesson that the leader does with the class, everybody has the opportunity to participate. You can ask a whole group question and you can wait and you can listen to every single student respond. You can have every single student up at the whiteboard. You can have every single student engaging in every single aspect of the Freedom School model. It also allows the leader to form personal relationships and really get to know those students very quickly. I've seen leaders know personal stories about their students, know where their student is going to be attending school, know what's going on in their student's home life. And I think it's really that model of being small and integrated and close and focusing on that sense of community that allows that.
Harambe is my favorite part. I come to work a little tired, and I want to get all energy. That's like my natural coffee. And then once I see those kids excited, I'm like, I get excited too. And then we get our beats and instrumentals in, it gets all fun, and everything starts going all together. It's amazing.
Walk in and it's contagious. For lack of better words, it's Club Harambe. There's no better way to hype yourself up in the morning than experience it. And I would encourage everybody to experience it, observe it at least once. It's contagious. You're going to want to be a part of it more than once. I got to observe our read aloud guests come, and I've seen principals up there moonwalking and dancing and popping it. I've seen directors in our district clapping and cheering and swaying, and I'm like, when did all these people get all this swag? If last night wasn't the best, if they didn't get this or that in the morning, they get to go into this engaging, high energy experience, connect, get ready for the day, and they're hooked.
I was like, when I saw everyone doing the Harambe, I was like, what'd I sign up for? Should I really be here? I saw people moving their hands, yelling, screaming, all this stuff, right? And I just finished from UC Davis, so I was like, man, I really got a degree to be dancing around like this. I was like, you got me messed up, right? So, and then I realized it was bigger than just the dancing. The scholars if they let themselves do it, they really get something out of it. And it sets off the pace for the whole morning. I think that's how it directly influences them, and it directly influences me because it also wakes me up. It gets me energized. We feed off each other's energy. And I think that's really powerful because, they're long days, 8-hour days for scholars who, may have trouble sitting still. It's a really good indicator of a great day if we start off with the right energy.
So at the beginning of Freedom Schools, when all of the SLIs are hype and high energy, and the kids are just looking around like, what is going on? And then as the weeks go, the kids are starting to get hyped. They're starting to lead parts of Harambe. And I think it's just like a good high energy, and it sets the tone for the day, and it makes kids happy to come to Freedom Schools.
We're entertainers. And that can kind of be a sensitive topic for some educators. I'm not there to entertain. I'm there to teach. But we've got to hook our students. We've got to engage them. And you have that critical moment at the beginning of a lesson or of a class to hook your students so that they're feeling what you're dishing out that day. Harambe does that every single morning. It hooks our students. It engages them. It creates a community. When you can see 200 students gathered sharing space and developing a community and then checking in on that community every single morning, they're engaged. They're connected to their leaders. They're ready for what the rest of the day is going to bring. I come from a secondary background. So in terms of the class sizes and the importance of that, I never had a class size where it wasn't 1 to 34, 1 to 35 ratio. And there were days where no matter how intentional I was about my practices and trying to connect with my students, there might be a day or two or maybe even three where I didn't have that one-on-one conversation with a student. I wasn't able to connect with them and be really intentional about my conversations with that student just because of the sheer number of students and that short time frame. Well, then you pivot and you look at Freedom Schools and you look at a 1 to 10 ratio. Me as an educator, if I had a 1 to 10 ratio, I would be all in my students' business. What's going on? Connecting with them, asking those questions, being really intentional about building that relationship piece and forming that community.
I would say maybe week 3, week 2.5, like is when the kids will really start opening up and you'll see more of the goofy side, little wild side, more emotions. They may cry to you. Like, you never know. It just depends on the type of kids you're dealing with.
My mom was a single mom, so I never really had that, like, I'm gonna pay attention to Laura. I always had I need to go work, I need to go do this. To my older sister, she'd be like, Kenya, take care of your little sister. And so I never really had that, hey, like, I'm doing something and pay attention to me. And so I feel like that Freedom Schools kind of made it happen for me where it's like, okay, so they were worried if I had breakfast in the morning. They were worried if I was actually getting up and dancing. And if I didn't dance, they'll be like, what's wrong, So I feel like in that sense, it's very touching because it's like, it's full of love.
It really helps when us as adults are being open and honest about our own struggles that we go through. So we're talking about dealing with emotional pain and loss. And recently, 3 months ago, I actually lost my husband. And some of these kids were in my class during the school year, but we never got to talk about it during the school year, right? Because it's like, okay, right when I came back, it was state testing and we got to do this and we got to do that. And then the school year's over. So for them to be in a space with me where I can be really honest about like what I'm going through at this time. And for students to say, you want to know what? I just lost my cousin, or I just lost my friend. It gives them a safe space to know that like I can talk about these things with somebody who's going to listen.
Because it's intimate, everybody gets along. Everybody knows each other's business. Not only that, but for ideas and for opinions, right? Because now they're like, I have an opinion and I could say it without like 25 people being like, you're wrong, right? But you have an opinion and you say it, and now because there's 10 people, now it's like, okay, I agree with you, right? And I agree with you too. And then there's someone over there, well, I don't agree with you because of this, because of that. And you're able to have those discussions, like very, very intimate discussions that you may not be able to have in a traditional school setting, right? Things that you would never, ever tell a teacher, these students are telling you.
The book was about absent fathers. We were circled up and we were talking about the book. We were having a discussion, and the scholar started to cry because most of them didn't grow up with a father. I grew up without a father also. So I was like, okay, if I'm vulnerable with these kids and they see my vulnerability, they know that we're connecting. So I cried with them. And we all hugged. We did our activities together. I even did the activities with them. And that made me realize that this is where I'm supposed to be at. This is why I'm here, to make a difference, you know.
It helps with behavior because at the beginning, when kids, they don't know you, they don't trust you, then they don't always want to listen to what you have to say and know that you have their best interests at heart. But once they do, then they're more willing to listen and redirect their own behaviors because they want to have a good relationship with you.
Having that space again where they can kind of trust you and open up to you, that's just going to build a strong relationship and allow us to do more things and learn together. And one of our site coordinators actually was speaking about healing together. And that to me is a really powerful thing, because then the scholars are like, oh, you know what? I feel the way you felt. Oh, my, excuse me if it triggers anyone, oh, my uncle got shot, oh, so did mine. How could we heal together? So I think it really comes down to how we can provide this space and have everyone feel comfortable so that they have the confidence moving forward after this program that they can do this year round.
It's just so interesting to me to like see these kids share these stories that you don't normally get in the normal year about some of the trauma or the struggles that they've been through and able to relate it to a character in a book that they got to read.
Our SLIs, our servant leader interns, read the material prior to them kind of sharing it with the children. Each week is themed, and so the books correlate to the theme that's happening over the week. And so the focal point is super important that the SLIs understand how they're helping children learn to make a difference in themselves through the literature and through their experiences.
It's one thing to look like each other, but it's another thing to have gone through the same things. I'm not gonna lie to you, most of the kids who are in Freedom School are troubled kids who come from a troubled neighborhood and a troubled background. And they've seen things, they've gone through things, they're hurt, you know. The first week, they're lashing out, they're yelling at you, they're saying the most rudest things to you, but you have to remember that they're kids and they're going through stuff. So they're saying a lot of rude things to you. And then once you're in that classroom, once you're in IRC, and you start talking to them and you start reading the books and you're like, yeah, well, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. And then you yourself, like as an SLI, you're like, yeah, like I relate with him because, I have my dad, but he's not in my life like that. Somebody over here saying, my dad, I don't know my dad. Someone over here saying, my mom isn't in my life. Every SLI here has a story and they have a background.
For somebody who cares, a caring adult, a caring young adult who looks like them typically, which is another part of the school challenge, the diversity of teaching. And we can talk about it all day, but until we start doing something about it, it will not change. That's part of where we have to change education.
I tell them all the time, I'm like, I used to be one of you. So when you lash out at me, I know why you're lashing out. And when you're telling me you don't want me to be like near you and talk to you, I know you want me there more than ever.
How do you talk to youth about mental health, which is, in my opinion, never talked about and it's never addressed? Oh, scholars are acting up, for example, or they're having a bad day, or someone's saying, I hate this, I hate that. We actually got training on how to navigate that, how to approach that with the angle of resolving it so it won't happen again. When they leave this space, they realize, oh, the importance of coping, healthy coping, balancing lifestyle, or just speaking to someone about my problems.
Locally, school district and the states and the regions and the county education system need to do the same thing. They need to come up with ways to begin introducing our kids to books that look like our kids, that talk about their lives, and give them a reason to connect to education. And until we do that, we'll continue to spin that wheel and ask ourselves, why are not black and brown kids at a crazy rate not making it in the school system? And when 70% of black and brown kids are not doing well in the school system in basic reading, something's wrong with that.
I can say that reading is cool and it's cool to read, but when a college student with cool clothes on and a great personality can put it to their favorite song or their favorite music and do it in front of all of them, that's the definition of cool. When they're up there dancing, our students are up there dancing, and when they're saying that reading is important and that's what makes you cool and that's what makes you a scholar, our students are believing that. So that relationship, I think, is unparalleled to any other relationship that I've observed.
This also transitions and ties into a lot of the work when we talk about community violence. Our young people are great. They have great ambitions, great dreams, great hopes, and sometimes they just need a space, but they also need a mentor to help guide them along the way.
It's just having that person, that figure that has not even looks like you, that has the same energy, the same background as you. It's kind of like, okay, so I see where you're coming from. It's kind of like they think you're cool because you're like them.
During the traditional school day, students are a little nervous to read out loud in front of 34 classmates. Well, you get them in a small group of 10, and these leaders have really built relationships with these students. And so they're confident. They're reading loud. They're reading proudly. They're volunteering to share their ideas. They're writing on the whiteboard. So that, I think, was the biggest takeaway for me, as the alignment to the school day and the after-school program and that connection.
Family's always involved in Freedom School. They're always involved. You have to involve them because of how intimate the class is.
Parent communication is crucial, right? Because after these 7-8 hours of the day, where do they go? Mom, dad, or whoever their parent guardian is, right? So I feel like having that communication with them and building that relationship with them only strengthens what we're trying to do here with our scholars, right? Because maybe some of them won't care, but there are also some that'll be like, oh, try to do this with the scholar if you're having, let's say, issues, for example. So it might have taken me 4 weeks to figure that out. But since I called that parent and the parent knows their child, bingo, right? In one day, I figured out what would have taken me 4 weeks. So it's little things like that. And on top of that, them knowing that you care about their child that much is going to make them want to come back.
I take pictures of my scholars and I send it to their parents. This is what they've done today, right? Because they're like, okay, who am I leaving my child with? I don't even know. And I call them. I'm like, hi, I miss you. They're good today. There's conversations, long conversations with parents. I had a parent talk to me about one of my students, how they used to be bullied, like I said. And then not only that, but now I know their whole life story. I know that she's pregnant, that she's waiting on a child. I know where they live. I know the mom, the dad, the brothers, the sister. I know everything. Once you build that relationship, it's their go-to is okay, I'm gonna contact you personally because you have my child.
A lot of those youth who've been a part of Freedom School, been a part of Roberts Family Development Center, are now interns, are now servant leader interns, are now some even supervisors right now, and some even program coordinators for the site. So that's the trajectory that we have here, and it all started with those relationships.
We're training the new teachers, right? We're training up-and-coming educators. We're giving them the tools that they need to be able to help a system that is not designed to serve children of color, the tools to be able to do that. It's like the best of both worlds. Not only are we helping our children find their place in that system, we're helping the system be able to change to accommodate our children. And so I'm interested to see when the system catches up with each other, how great, the educational system is and becomes for children of color.
I asked them, I said, are there any teachers in a regular school setting that teach how we teach, who influenced you? And they were like, I can't name one. And I was like, okay, we'll put typical school and Freedom Schools together. What teacher influenced you? And I just seen fingers. And that just made me feel like I'm really making a difference. I'm really touching these kids' hearts. I'm doing something. And that's why I keep coming back.
In regards to academics, I think growing up, there was never that one-on-one interaction. There was never that one-on-one, hey, how can I help you? What do you need from me? How can I serve you better? It was always do this, do that, finish this assignment, you have homework due tomorrow. It was never hey, how do you feel today? Oh, you're in a bad mood, what's going on? Let's talk about it. I'm here for you. It was never so much about that. It was always push the agenda, get the SAT score, the test scores, all that combined is very different than here.
When I started with Roberts Family Development Center and where I'm at now at the Center at Sierra Health Foundation, we focus on race and health equity. Specifically for my role is really overseeing My Brother's Keeper. How do you remove barriers for young people of color, specifically boys and young men of color, stop the school to prison pipeline, improve health outcomes, improve access to workforce development opportunities, as well as keeping public safety, right? So when I look at the Freedom School model, the Freedom School model is just all of that, and it ties into everything. When you're talking about creating a safe place for young people, when you're talking about providing intergenerational leadership with college-age students, if some of these are their first-time jobs, getting connected, learning soft skills, learning how to engage, hiring and creating transformative classrooms goes right into education.
Growing up in the public school system, you don't see a lot of people that look like you.
All my years of school, I maybe had like 2 teachers of color, and seeing all the teachers and the leaders that are here and they're all of color is just, I think, a beautiful thing for the community, because then it shows kids like, okay, I can be this too, you know what I'm saying? So
When kids don't see representation of themselves in books or even just in life, then they don't have goals. They don't have anything that they want to work towards. They don't see themselves doing that because it's not someone like them doing it. And when you have these books in the classroom that they can read that are about themselves or about the struggles, the everyday struggles that we have, then that's something they can relate to, and they're going to show up because of that.
No, for me, being a black male, being introduced to literature, characters, real people, change agents, being able to see that, you begin to have a little bit more hope for yourself, right? And being able to see that young people of color hear, read, or taught and engaged by other people of color is phenomenal. It really does change the narrative and the self-perception of who you are and what you can accomplish when you see, you hear, and you learn about others like you who have done it.
We're all a community and we're all playing on the same team, and that's to support our students. I would love the SLIs. I love the mentorship in college students. I would love to see them have a presence during the school day, coming and having lunch with students during the school day, showing their faces. I want teachers to be able to see what's going on at Freedom Schools. I want them to experience a Harambe. I want them to have the opportunity to walk a classroom during Freedom Schools.
the fact that this is a literacy program, and in our community, literacy is a very big thing where it's at a low level. So ultimately, it's only going to improve them educationally.
It's because they practice all summer long reading comprehension, writing. So if you do that long enough, you're going to strengthen. It's just like basketball. If you practice all summer long, when the fall rolls around, your skills will be more obvious to other people that you have gotten better.
Kids who are performing on grade level or above grade level, there's something about the way those kids always just want to please, and they want to do what the teacher wants to get the grade. And so when you're in an environment where there's no grades and you have this freedom, like when I said we're going to do an activity, I want you to write about, just today, it was write about whatever is on your mind. And from there, we can create a rap or a poem. Having that flexibility makes them independent learners versus dependent on a grade.
And I'm walking in as an administrator, as a teacher, as an educator, and I'm seeing KWL charts on the board. I'm seeing our students in small groups reading to each other, reading to themselves. I'm seeing students in whole groups reading, asking really critical, engaging questions of the text, and I'm seeing leaders really facilitate that learning. I had no idea that level of learning and literacy and alignment to what we're doing in the school day was going on. I think the thing that caught me even most off guard was how much fun our students were having doing it.
Gives them something to do throughout the summer that's fun, educational, and they love to be here, and it keeps them coming back year after year. Like, I've been here for 4 years. It's kids that's been here longer than me.
Funding coming from a school district is simply an investment to me, nothing more. And it has to be an investment because we all need to talk about what are the results. So if Freedom School is not doing anything for those 160 260, the 160 at Robles, Sac City, or Twin Rivers, if those kids, totaling almost 500 plus kids, are not benefiting and showing results, then we shouldn't fund Freedom School. But I know Freedom School has been funded for 7 years because it's working.
The coin phrases of Freedom Schools is work the model because the model works. Freedom Schools is an evidence-based social and emotional program. It's designed to create opportunity for children to have social and emotional opportunities for healing so that they can then become more available to be educated. You know, when you're dealing with stressors and you're dealing with external things that are happening that oftentimes you just don't have control over, how do you then sit still in a classroom? How do you then read a page on a book and retain the information? Or how do you stretch your mind to really learn new concepts? It becomes difficult. It gives them a better voice in order to be able to articulate some of the things that they struggle with so that they can get the help, oftentimes we like to call those coping skills, right, that they need to deal with those life stressors that they don't have any other, way to know how to deal with, so that then when they go to school, they can concentrate, they can deep breathe, they can journal, they can talk to a caring adult, which are evidence-based practices, proven practices that work for children to help them become more available to learning.
That if you let yourself learn and grow and be vulnerable, you will get out of these 6 weeks something that you can take for the rest of your life. I know it sounds cliche, but I firmly believe that anyone who wants to learn, or any scholar who might doubt themselves or maybe isn't in the best place academically, come to Freedom Schools, give it a shot. If you hate it, leave, no problem. But just give it a chance, because all the faculty here, all the staff, we all deeply care about our scholars. And at the end of the day, we're all doing this for the same reason. We want what's best for them. We recognize that they all come from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, some, housing insecurity, some, whatever the case may be. It can be very, very hard backgrounds. But at Freedom Schools, we really try to implement that space to help them carry on into their academic year. So, yeah, I just think it's a really great opportunity for healing and for scholars to just grow and be a better version of themselves.